It was announced earlier this week that that man right there, if you're watching on NBCSN, Johnny Scowl, is going to be scowling through TV screens all August long as the Raiders are the Hard Knocks candidate. Nobody wanted it this year. It was obvious. There were 5 teams that could be forced to do it under the league's formula for determining which teams can be forced to do it. Ultimately, I think some sort of a deal was struck, Big Cat. Something was done to get the Raiders to say, okay, fine, we'll go ahead and do it. They didn't want to do it. Mark Davis said in March, we don't want to do it, not this year. John Gruden made it clear he didn't want to do it. They're doing it, and they're the perfect team to do it this year with all the stuff that's going on. But they have so much stuff going on, the last thing they need is another distraction that comes in the form of all those cameras, all those microphones chronicling everything that happens at training camp.
As a fan, I'm very excited. I wanted the Raiders. The Raiders are probably the most compelling story of the teams you mentioned. Antonio Brown, Mark Davis, and John Gruden getting the same haircut. There's a lot of things you can go with here. But this, more than anything, I think is the league saying if you're going to move a team, because this happened with the Rams, if you're going to make all the owners vote for a new stadium and get up there and back you, well, guess what? You're the one who has to carry it when the bill comes due, and someone has to do Hard Knocks because no one wants to do it. But this is what happens. If you want to move your team, if you want to get a new stadium, you're going to have to do Hard Knocks.
If Mark Davis wanted to reach truly legendary status, and if he wanted to show to all of us that he is self-aware, one of the scenes of the first episode of Hard Knocks would be Mark Davis goes to the barber, wouldn't it?
Yes. Yes.
With
Not
Gruden.
only that,
with Gruden.
Yeah.
In chairs right next to each other.
Correct. Or Mark Davis goes to P.F. Chang's, or just an inside view of Mark Davis's conversion van, which, by the way, I don't have many scoops in my life, but the Mark Davis conversion van was one of my scoops. I actually had that back in the day. I was the one who broke the news that he drove around in a white conversion van, or it might be even just a minivan, with the license plate R8ER. And he just drives around in that all the time, and it's a hilarious sight, hilarious visual. So it's going to be good. And you have, obviously the Antonio Brown, Derek Carr. You have some Tom Cable, who's probably going to fight someone. There's all kinds of storylines that we can go with here. The Raiders are fascinating. Mike Mayock sitting with John Gruden in these rooms. I think more than anything, though, Mike, I think John Gruden is going to get the court of public opinion back on his side from this because he's good on camera. Everyone knows that, and he can talk to people, and I think this is actually a bonus. As bad as it may be to do Hard Knocks from a team perspective, I think this helps John Gruden personally.
Yeah, you didn't mention Vontaze Burfict or Richie Incognito. Those two guys on the field at the same time in training camp practice, popping each other, knocking out the spider webs in late July is going to be something that you definitely want to have the cameras rolling for. And I think, Big Cat, that John Gruden ultimately didn't want to do Hard Knocks because he knows that he will play to the cameras, that he will slide back into the role of the guy who was in the booth at Monday Night Football or the guy sitting in his conference room doing the quarterback camp. And he may lose sight of why he's there. He's there to coach the team, but all of a sudden it becomes, I'm the star of the TV show, and he's going to play that up, and it may take some of his focus away from what he needs to do. I think that's why he didn't want to do it. And I go back to the day he was introduced as head coach of the Raiders. That same day, Matt Nagy was introduced as head coach of the Bears, and they did press conferences the same day. And Nagy's was horrible in comparison. And Gruden's was great, and it was compelling, and you could see 9 years of TV jump off the screen. But the bottom line is, Nagy ended up being coach of the year, and John Gruden ended up with a 4-12 team. So there's a real disconnect between how you play on camera and how you play when it's time to show up for your games. And this is not going to help the Raiders be any better when it's time to play games.
But don't you think John Gruden, showing just basic competency on camera and being a dynamic speaker will help this whole John Gruden is outdated and John Gruden doesn't know the NFL anymore? I just think back
until September.
What?
Until September.
Until
right?
September, but I think back to Hugh Jackson and Hard Knocks last year, and that scene when he was trying to convince his coaching staff that guys need to be healthy for a team that won one game in 2 years. And that scene where he basically said, hey, I'm the boss, it's my way or the highway, I'm not even making this a collaborative effort here. I remember that scene so vividly and saying, wow, this is worse than I thought. Hugh Jackson is worse than I thought and actually just a really bad manager of talent and boss, because that's what a coach is. Part of the job is just being everyone's boss. John Gruden will excel at that. And any little bit helps when you come off a season like that where you trade Khalil Mack and win as little games as he does. So I think this is going to help. I really do.
And Big Head, I think that scene you've referred to from the very first episode of last year's Hard Knocks is the reason why nobody wants to do it, right? There's no benefit that comes out of it. Over the years, what?
Hold on. You can do Hard Knocks and not be a terrible boss and manager of talent. Those aren't. You don't have to be a terrible boss and a terrible coach like Hugh Jackson. There is an alternate choice, like listening to your, subordinates and being.
I don't disagree with that, but you don't have to let it be in the final cut. That's the problem we've heard for years.
Hugh Jackson can't, and I'm not saying he's doing this, but Hugh Jackson can't be like, man, Hard Knocks really got me. You know who got you? Hugh Jackson got you.
No, I don't disagree with that. But my point is this. When you allow that element into your building, when they're there, when the producers are saying, oh, this is a great scene, trust me, we have to, this is going to make you look real, and this is the stuff fans want. I think the Raiders, above all else, and I don't know this, but I would have wanted it if I was Mark Davis or John Gruden or Mike Mayock, especially Mike Mayock, who has no patience for any of this crap. I would want to be sure that I've got the ability to watch this thing the night before it airs, and I've got a blank check to say, that goes, that goes, that goes.
Okay, one last thing about this. Don't you think Mark Davis, and I don't know where his head is at, but in terms of moving your franchise and selling season tickets to Las Vegas, this is a good thing. Hard Knocks gets you familiar with every guy on the roster. There's always a guy that people will look back and remember that name. He might not be a superstar, but when you get on Hard Knocks, you feel more connected to the team. And if they are trying to sell this team to Las Vegas and a totally new fan base, I think this helps. It gives them, a higher look in the public eye. I think that all helps the Raiders.
I don't think the Raiders need it because they're the Raiders. And I've heard the justification in the past that teams have done this like the Bengals or the Dolphins or the Texans to establish a national presence. There's one way to establish a national presence, and that's winning football games. And the Raiders to their credit, the power of the brand is they can stink for a generation and they still have fans everywhere. This isn't going to help them. Look, if they thought this was going to help them, they'd have been at the front of the line to do it. They didn't want to do it. They view this as a burden and an inconvenience and a distraction. And that's going to make it even more intriguing how much of that is going to bleed into what we see on those 5 episodes that will come in early August. So it makes it even more compelling from my perspective because I know deep down they don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm. Just give us Mark Davis getting a haircut. That's all we ask for.
I'll take that. Just that for a full hour. Put Mark Davis in LeBron James barbershop, and then there's the show. There's Hard Knocks.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.